the way in which students of color are treated differently really depends on the community, right? So oftentimes we talk about just like this zip code lottery that some of us fall into, right? Whether or not you're going to be in a district that's going to embrace your differences, provide support or not. It was clear that, my time in special ed, the vast majority of the kids who were in there with me were Black and brown boys, right? So boys of color. I have to think, right? Like maybe not consciously, right? But certainly in a way that was systemic, that special education was being utilized as a way to be able to segregate us from the rest of the school population. Now, I think that another thing at play is that many families of color don't necessarily understand what their rights are, right? And so to be able to advocate for their child in a way where they're not going to be placed in an environment where they're separated from everyone else, I think that, a lot of us, we just, we kind of take the school at its word, like this is the best thing that could happen for my child. And so, that was certainly my mother's story, where once the child study team showed up and they said, here's what needs to happen for your son, she just basically was like, sure, you're the folks with the PhDs, you obviously know what's going on. And on the surface level, there were indications that was the best placement for me, as in my reading ability and spelling ability began to be better. But the other things that she couldn't see, immediately were definitely challenges that came with how I was being treated by the school. So I think that there's the awareness of our rights piece that a lot of people of color don't have. I think we really do have to look at some of the biases that are present, both as it relates to race and as it relates to disability in our schools, right? So a lot of our educators pass through teacher preparation programs and are by all measures considered to be highly qualified. But the reality is they're really only qualified to really educate people who are like them, right? So whether you get someone who is from a different ethnic background or an economic background, whose cultural norms are different, right? Like even just the way in which you sort of show up in the classroom, maybe your energy level, the way you communicate, all those things may be different. And in some instances can be intimidating to some educators, right? Not to mention the fact that if you lay in that neurologically, I'm approaching learning in a very different way. And, instead of an educator just being like, I realize that I've not been prepared to be able to teach you. I don't know how to differentiate this instruction so that it works for you. Instead, it just becomes a lot easier for us to fall back on segregation, which is sort of a modern day manifestation of America's original sin. One of the things that I love about being a person who's LD is how the LD experience is something that cuts across class and race. Like if you've struggled in reading, if you struggled in math, because you're LD, like there is a brotherhood and a sisterhood with no matter who you meet, right? And so it cuts across color to that degree. But I've stopped really sort of emphasizing that, because I do know that the experience of being LD can be very different if you're from a wealthier class versus being someone who's poor. The experience of being LD can be very different if you're a person of color versus being someone who's white or Asian, right? So I think it is important that we do look at the places where there is common ground, but we don't use that as an opportunity for us to not engage in these really important conversations about the ways in which our systems still need to be improved.
For more information about learning disabilities and ADHD, please visit ldonline.org. This video was made possible by a partnership between the National Education Association and WETA,